This is CBC Here and Now.
Such a young soul, full of ambitions, big dreams.
An unimaginable tragedy, a family watching as their son slips into the ocean in Flat Rock.
Tonight, the young man's father tells us about his son.
It's scary to know that someone who is so dangerous is out on the streets in such short of time and never, ever got properly punished for his crime.
He was wrongfully convicted, then exonerated.
Now, Greg Parsons has to relive his mother's murder and face her killer at an unexpected parole hearing. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. We start with a heartbreaking story. A young man with big dreams died tragically yesterday in Flat Rock.
And today his father shares details about what happened and how the family is trying to cope. But before we go live to Flat Rock, a warning, some viewers will find this story difficult to watch.
Terry Roberts is standing by with more on what happened. Terry.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to be a relaxing evening stroll for Don and Chidima Jayasingh and their son Supal and their dog Neo last evening along this section of shoreline that you see behind me here, just beyond the breakwater. And really a chance for Supal as well to wind down and celebrate a little after writing his final biology exam for the semester at Memorial University. But as many of us know by now, it turned out to be a scenario that really is every parent's worst nightmare. These were the last photos that Don Jayasingh ever took of his son Supal. Happy moments at the shoreline with the family dog. Snapped just before the 21-year-old lost his footing on slimy rocks. His parents standing there, helpless.
And I also shouting at him, "No, don't go, son, don't go there." So he went all the way to the edge of the wet area and he was sitting there. And dog turned around and came back because we were on top of the rock.
But when Supal turned to rejoin his parents, he stumbled and slipped into the waves.
But initially I saw from his face, it was not that difficult. He took it slightly, oh, he can come out. But when he was trying to come out, every time, whatever he touched, slipped. And he was just simply rotating, going around, maybe 10-15 meters. I was following him, talking to him, and suddenly he understood it is difficult. He asked my help. "Dad, help me." So at that time, the dog's leash on my hand, I was trying to give this, leash to him. I started slipping. I just came back. And just then I noticed he was floating, moving his hands. So suddenly the darkness also came, and 10-12 minutes he vanished. That's the story.
An intense search effort from the sea and the air. But this father knows his son is gone.
Yes, absolutely. Dying in front of my eyes. Asking help from me and dying. Vanishing.
Two proud parents grieving a terrible loss. An experience that would cripple any family. But Don Jayasingh says his Buddhist beliefs are helping him in this tragic moment.
For my belief, now whether we find the body or don't find the body, doesn't matter to us now. He's gone. His soul is somewhere. Only the lifeless body could be somewhere underneath of the ocean, or in a couple of days it might come up. For us, it doesn't return our son. Our son is gone forever.
What do you want people to know? Don and Chidima Jayasingh are still here in Flat Rock. A local family has opened their home to the Chidimas, and some of Supal's friends are also here. The search is still ongoing. They're calling this a missing persons search, but it's now been 24 hours. So Don Jayasingh told me today that he brought his family to Canada from Sri Lanka to give his son a better chance at a better education, a brighter future. And Supal was on his way, smart, athletic, community-minded. You know, he wanted to become a physician. and one day perhaps work for Doctors Without Borders and help people from around the world. And right now that is Supal's legacy, and it's that legacy and their religious beliefs that this family is leaning on tonight to try and get them through this horrible, horrible situation. Reporting live from Flat Rock, I'm Terry Roberts for Here and Now.
And our thoughts are with that family at this terrible time. Well, turning now to some other news, the MP from Nunavut is still calling on Labrador MP Yvonne Jones to prove her identity by sharing her Inuit lineage. It's a story we've been following on Here and Now. This morning, Mumilak Kakak released a video pressing Jones to explain her family tree. She says she doesn't believe Jones is Inuk and wants Jones to prove her wrong.
We're very open, honest, accepting. It does not matter what you look like. What is wrong is claiming identity you do not have. I'm not going to apologize. I know until I am proven otherwise, Yvonne Jones is not Inuk. Yvonne Jones, if you can point to your family, to that lineage, that's a different situation.
Now, CBC recorded that video before it was removed from social media. Kakak says Twitter has repeatedly deleted her videos. Now, this all started earlier this week when Kakak tweeted that Jones is, quote, not an Inuk. Jones responded, demanding an apology in the House of Commons, accusing Kakak of committing racial erosion against her own culture. Today, Jones says she has no problem discussing her heritage with anyone who asks, but she has no plan to publicly reveal her family tree.
Anytime that MP Kaka would have wanted to have a conversation with me around my heritage, around my ancestry, around my identity, I would have been happy to have that conversation. I've had that conversation with many people in my lifetime. I also think that her questioning is out of naivety on her part, naivety, one, to what's acceptable, in terms of questioning people's culture and their identity, but number two, not understanding the Inuit of Labrador.
Yvonne Jones and I had a deeper discussion about this and her background. My full conversation with the Labrador MP ahead in about 30 minutes on Here and Now.
Well, it's a pretty windy day out there, especially on the west coast. In fact, the windiest was down through the Wreck House area, 139 kilometers per hour, and exceptionally more windy than rest of the west coast. And that happens quite a bit. But why does that happen? That's because we see these southeasterly winds go across the flat land and then reach the long-range mountains, and it squeezes through those valleys. And when it does that, those winds speed up. Think about it like a hose, and when you put the garden hose through the nozzle, the water speeds up, and that's exactly what happens with the wind. And unfortunately today, those winds toppled over one of the trucks this afternoon as well. But those winds are going to stay quite strong as we head through the overnight tonight, eventually easing as we head through the day tomorrow. We do have some rain on the way as well. I'll get into those details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, 3 new COVID cases to tell you about tonight. One is related to travel. The other 2 are close contacts of existing cases. The case related to travel is in the eastern region. It's a man in his 60s. The other 2 are in the western region, a man in his 20s or 30s and a girl under 20. Both are contacts of a previous case.
A woman in her 30s from the West Coast has faced the most difficult year of her life as she fought to stay alive. She had recently been diagnosed with stage 4 rectal cancer, and now she's asking that Canadians be screened at an earlier age because colon rectal cancer is no longer just an old man's disease. Here Now's Colleen Connors has more from her home in Pasadena.
This is a typical lunch break for 36-year-old Stephanie Budgell. She's feeling good today, so good that she laces up her sneakers, turns on her tracking watch, and heads out for a run.
Well, I feel like I'm starting from base, but all through my 6 months of chemo, I tried to remain very active. You're supposed to go into surgery feeling your best.
This athletic wife and mom of 2 young children has been through surgery to remove most of her liver, chemo treatments with intense side effects, radiation, and surgery to remove her rectum and install a colostomy bag, all in the past year. It all started last March, around the start of the pandemic, when her tummy just wasn't feeling so right and she had blood in her stool. She was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer.
Unbelievable, really, if you've seen me today, would you think that I was a stage 4 cancer survivor, right? Probably not. If you seen me the day I was diagnosed, you probably wouldn't think that. So yeah, people look very healthy and sometimes they're not, but I don't know, it's not a common thing. However, after I was diagnosed, you kind of go on the internet and do your Google search and, find your community of people. And it turns out that the community of people is pretty big, for young people my age, 35, even younger.
Doctors told her that colorectal cancer is on the rise in people younger than 50. Risk factors include a high diet in red meat and low in fiber, lack of exercise, obesity, smoking, and drinking alcohol. Eastern Health recommends cancer screening or colonoscopies start at 50. Budgel was not affected by any of these risk factors. She wants the screening age lowered to 45.
I'd like to see that change. I'd like to see family doctors recognize that it's not just an old man's disease anymore.
The province's colon cancer screening program encourages the average 50 to 74-year-old to have an at-home screening test to check for blood in the stool. Eastern Health says more than 90% of people diagnosed with colon cancer are over the age of 50. But if you have symptoms like blood in the stool, odd bowel habits, pain, or tiredness, to contact your doctor for a colonoscopy. Now, Budgel believes this cancer doesn't have the same high public profile as some others.
If you don't talk about it, if it's not out there, people don't know it exists, right? So, this is one step in the way of kind of getting the word out there, and hopefully there's not any shame associated with it,
She wants younger people to be more aware of this life-threatening disease. And even though she is feeling really good these days, she will keep posting about early screening on social media, all while working from home, taking care of her family, and running on her lunch breaks. Budgel is awaiting the results of a recent CT scan to find out if there's any other evidence of cancer. In the meantime, she's putting all of that running to good use. She has signed up for a 25-kilometer trail run this summer. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Pasadena.
We have an update now on a CBC Investigate story that we first brought to you last month. The St. John's Regional Fire Department's helicopter rescue team has been grounded since the spring of 2020, and there are concerns behind the scenes about efforts to get it back in the air again. Rob Antle has the details.
For nearly a year, the helicopter rescue team hasn't had the equipment needed to do long line work like this.
And this is a very important service within our region.
Where they would once drop down from a chopper above, now it's get as close as possible and maybe find other ways to help.
If we can only land in a certain area, it could potentially take us hours to actually walk to the rescue site. The other side of it is if we're able to rappel or another system, the pilot can put us directly above the person who's in trouble.
The province contracted replacement helicopters after the previous provider went bankrupt, but the equipment issue still hasn't been solved. And now the mayors of St. John's, Mount Pearl and Paradise have asked the Premier for action. Writing this letter last month, saying they've been kept in the dark, no follow-up information from the province. The fire department rescue team not able to provide a critical emergency service. No clear protocols in place if someone finds themselves in trouble on a remote trail with major injuries and needing rescue, asking the province to present its plan. Fire Department Deputy Chief Roger Hounsell is hopeful the issue can be sorted out and the team can get back in the air soon.
I think with talks between all parties involved, I'm sure it'll be a successful conclusion to figuring out how this is going to look in the future.
A successful conclusion so that someone stranded on a cliffside would once again be able to count on help coming like this. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Rob's story generated some heat today on the floor of the House of Assembly, with the opposition Tories leading off question period to demand for some answers.
Last month, transportation officials said they were working with St. John's Regional Fire Department to address this issue. Now we learn this is not correct. I asked the Premier who is telling the truth on this critical matter of public safety.
As I understand it, there was a helicopter contract in place. There's certainly space to improve on where we are, and the Minister of Justice and Public Safety is certainly looking at that right now, Mr. Speaker.
And there was an acknowledgement, a letter that was sent back to them to respond to it. And again, it's something that we're going to be working with them going forward, but it is a very specific and discrete issue related to rope teams at the St. John's Regional Fire Department.
Well, staying with the House, MHAs and reporters tried to get some clarity on the Green Report that's expected by the end of April. They asked Finance Minister Siobhan Cody if the report that's coming is the interim report or the final report of the Premier's Economic Task Force, chaired by Moya Green.
I would suggest you speak to Moya Green about what she will be giving to us. My understanding is it will be a fulsome report. So it'll probably give you, a great amount to take to the people of the province. And there may be something coming later. I don't know. But that's, again, I direct you to Moya Green.
Well, yesterday, the Premier described the report that's expected in the next couple of weeks as a more substantial interim report, which he said will contain recommendations. Cody said the report is coming too late to influence the government's next budget in June, but opposition MHAs are still wondering what to expect.
It's all so confusing because this was the Premier's. He wanted this report done. It was going to be the economic engine. It was supposed to inform this year's budget. And at the same time, the minister was mandated to implement the recommendations. Now we're finding out that we don't know when it's going to arrive, no set date, and certainly it doesn't sound like it will be here in time to have any impact on the budget.
Remember, when the Green Report was established, this was designed to come forward with bold ideas to secure our economic and social future for Newfoundland and Labrador. And we're being told, there's a pandemic, we can't work from home. Well, schools are able to function perfectly well. In fact, we're doing an awful lot of online learning.
Well, the City of St. John's will host the Canada Summer Games in 2025.
We anticipate an economic impact in the range of $100 million. To put that in perspective, that's 10 Briars in 2 weeks.
Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because it was first announced back in 2015 when Ontario and this province agreed to switch dates. This will be the third time the Games have been held in this province. The second time for St. John's. Corner Brook was the site of the Winter Games in 1999, and St. John's hosted the Summer Games back in 1977.
I'm never going to stop fighting for justice for my mom.
He went to prison for murder, a crime he didn't commit. Why Greg Parsons is again being forced to relive that painful night.
Time now for a look at the forecast, and what a beautiful day today. All that sunshine and pretty mild temperatures.
Yeah,
It's just gorgeous.
It was, yeah. And after all that rain, today's weather brought everybody pretty much outside. Let's take a look.
I'm painting the candy store here today for a repaint. Nice day for it. Keep her going. Get her done.
My name is Richard Wade, and I work with Canada Clean Glass. And as you can see, I'm giving the old windows a scrub down here, and they need it today because they got some construction on the go. We had a week and a half or 2 weeks of rain, as usual. I was getting ready to call Noah. But makes us enjoy the ones we get even more, I guess.
Hey guys, thanks for coming out. What can we get you today? Can I get a salt beef cookies? Salt beef pooter! Thanks for coming out. It's a great day, yeah? Oh, I've got another one. You guys know what's up. Go and send that food. Make sure you put some gravy on your pinky. Like, let him have a little of that. Let him have some of that.
We picked up this job, a couple of weeks ago, Mike? And we came here today. It was a nice day. And we started in on it. And the day is going well so far. We're almost done.
Hey, I've got a dirty salt beef pooter for you. Bowen, come send this food before it gets cold. Hot food, hot service, the girls.
There's a great afternoon, and if you were outside at all, you may have seen this today. This is a sun halo outside in St. John's this afternoon. That normally indicates that some rain is going to be on the way within the next 24 hours. That was certainly the case today. Taking a look at the satellite and radar, we saw lots of showers across the west coast, and they just moved in for the metro area to about an hour or about a half an hour ago now at this point. And we're going to see those showers generally continue as we head through the evening tonight. But boy, were the temperatures beautiful this afternoon in the east, reaching anywhere from 14 to 17 degrees for eastern areas of the island, even up through Twillingate, double-digit highs, 10 degrees today, Corner Brook reaching 14. And then we've got those temperatures hovering around the 0-degree mark for Labrador this afternoon, or Lab City. And then Happy Valley Goose Bay saw a high near 7 degrees. Now that temperature in St. John's dropped like a rock earlier this afternoon, down to 5 degrees now. Still a beautiful afternoon, although windy for eastern or western areas of the island. Corner Brook sitting at 11 degrees right now. Taking a look at the systems, we do have an area of low pressure. That's what's bringing all of that rain to most of the island, and that's bringing snow up through portions of Labrador. So taking a look at that, you can see that snow for Lab West as well as the north, but as we go through the evening and overnight tonight, we're going to see that rain, or snow rather, change over to some periods of rain through the overnight, and then that rain is going to make its way across the island as we head through midnight. And behind that, some cooler air, which means we could see a few flurries in the mix for the southwestern portion of the island. Those showers or flurries will make their way towards coastal areas of Labrador as we head into the early morning hours, and eventually we'll see some clearing skies for eastern areas, particularly the Avalon, as we head into the early morning hours on Friday. So taking a look at the temperatures tonight, hovering in and around the 0-degree mark, maybe a degree above across the west coast. Those winds are going to stay breezy for you. Southerlies anywhere from 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, but the winds are going to ramp up in the east over the next couple of hours. We're looking at southeasterlies gusting 50 to 70, even 80 kilometers per hour in some of those exposed areas. And then across Labrador, like I said, temperatures will be hovering around 0 degrees for Lab City. We may see that bump up a degree, so we could see that potential to change over or mix with rain through the overnight. And then your winds will be out of the northeast, about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Along the coast, at least the southeastern portion of the Labrador, we're looking at some showers, and that's because your temperatures are going to stay above 0. Now through the day tomorrow, that area of low pressure is still going to affect our weather, but we're going to see a few breaks in the cloud cover through the morning hours, and then into the afternoon that cooler air will move back in. So not quite as warm as what we saw today, but we will see the potential for some showers and or flurries, certainly in those higher elevations along the west coast. Most of eastern Newfoundland should stay as rain rain. If it does fall, it'll be scattered showers into the afternoon. Across Labrador, you're looking at the potential for flurries sticking around, getting into either showers or flurries towards central Labrador, and then the same thing towards the coast as that area of low pressure continues to spin and bring that potential for some flurries and or light snow again to the west coast as we head through the overnight, and maybe make it as far as eastern Newfoundland as we head into the early morning hours on Sunday. As far as that precipitation goes for rain, still looking at another 10 to 20 millimeters of rain for areas in the southwest. Overall, we're just looking at 10 to 20, and then tomorrow there's your temperatures, much cooler. Shouldn't see double digits tomorrow afternoon, 5-6 degrees on the west coast and about 6 to 8 degrees in the east. Again, those winds will stay breezy, about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. For Labrador, you're looking at flurries in, like I said, in the west. Lab City seeing high near 2 degrees, and then those well above zero temperatures for southeast, about 4 to 6 degrees will be your afternoon high, with some breezy easterly winds around 60 kilometers per hour. We'll look at the weekend forecast when I come back.
Well, COVID-19 has challenged the justice system as well as people who are trying to find justice. My next guest, Greg Parsons, was convicted of a notorious crime that he did not commit, and that's the murder of his mother, Catherine Carroll, back in 1991. Once again, Greg is going to have to relive what happened 30 years ago when he appears at a virtual parole board hearing tomorrow. That's going to happen. Greg, how do you prepare to talk about what happened 30 years ago, your mother's murder?
It's very difficult. I've been dealing with this now for 31 years. It does have an accumulative effect. Every year it gets harder. There has been things that arose over the past couple of years, so I always have to, if I have an opportunity to give an impact statement, I'm going to take it. As I stated before, I'm never going to stop fighting for justice for my mom.
And as you know, and I know you've talked about some, the horrific nature, not just the fact that you were found guilty of something you didn't do, but the brutal nature of your mother's stabbing, and Mr. Doyle getting day parole. Why do you have to go through this again?
Well, the reason I'm going through it is because there was never any justice here in Newfoundland. My mother was robbed of her justice, and that'll be coming up in the hearing. But he skated through the system, and from a good part of his sentence, 7 years, he ended up in the William Head Institution. And basically that's a minimum security prison. Just a gate with one fence with an open gate. He had his own apartment. It's scandalous to know that he spent 7 years there, basically because my mom was robbed by the justice system here.
Last year, because of COVID, you were supposed to actually go to BC, right, to make a statement as they were trying to seek the evidence to let Mr. Doyle out on day parole. What happened last year?
Well, as we all know, COVID happened last year, and because of that, I couldn't fly to BC, and I was denied access to the hearing. I wasn't even given access through virtual means. There was hundreds of people in Canada affected in the same way, but Bill Blair took a rap on the knuckles for that.
The minister?
The Minister of Justice up there, I think. But anyhow, I felt robbed. Like, I wanted to be there to speak for Mom, and he ended up getting day parole. And like, it's scary to know that someone who is so dangerous is out on the streets in such short of time and never, ever got properly punished for his crime.
Do you think it's possible for a man who did something, he stabbed your mother 52 times?
He stabbed her 53 times. She was unrecognizable. Had to be a closed casket, so there's no closure. After stabbing her, she was dead or dying on the floor. He took a shower. He had his clothes left in my bedroom, clean. He jumped into bed with her with a knife. Like, it's crazy what happened, and he got a slap on the wrist, and there was no justice for Mom, and now he's saying that he had an ongoing relationship with my mom, and the parole board is quantifying it. It's such an indignity to my mom, and I've got the proof that this is not true.
He also let you take the fall for her murder.
He never let me take the fall. He framed me. Not only did he murder my mom, he framed me.
The details tomorrow that you're going to discuss, I know there's some things you can't talk about because you haven't made your statement yet. Do we know exactly why this hearing's happening?
I don't. I was contacted about 3 weeks ago by the parole board saying that they had concerns with the offender. This is another day parole hearing, so I don't know what their concerns are, but I've put the evidence to the parole board, which we'll talk about later, but I want to make sure that they have all the facts in front of them. They need to know the facts of this case when they're dealing with this monster, and they have to do their due diligence and make sure that the community is safe.
Last question for you. I know that you're a tough man, you're a firefighter. What kind of toll does this take on you?
It's a tremendous toll. I've been off work now a month, emotionally and physically drained. It's affecting my health, it's affecting my family, and it's 31 years of it. The only thing I want for this is the truth to come out so I can put it to bed, find closure for Mom, find some dignity for my mom and closure for myself, and then I'm going to just put it in the past, because I'm very happy with my life and my family. I just want to be able to go on with it without this scarring it anymore.
Well, listen, I'm glad to hear that, and most of us have no idea what it's like to go through, any idea what it's like to go through. Good luck tomorrow, and thanks for your time.
And thank you.
Do you go back home? Do you stay here? You know, it's hard.
A little later in the show, they haven't seen their families in more than a year. How 2 international students are weathering the pandemic in Newfoundland. As we heard earlier in the show, the MP for Nunavut is calling on Labrador MP Yvonne Jones to prove her identity by sharing her Inuit lineage.
Who are your parents and grandparents? Where does your Inuktness come from, Yvonne Jones?
Late last week, Mumalak Kakak tweeted Jones is, quote, not an Inuk. Jones demanded an apology at the House of Commons and accused Kakak of committing racial erosion against her own culture. In a statement, Kakak acknowledged she made a mistake, but then this morning released a video reiterating that she doesn't believe Jones is Inuk and asked her to explain her family tree. Now, CBC recorded the video before it was taken down. Kakak says it was removed by Twitter. Yvonne Jones, Labrador MP and member of Nunavut Community Council, joins me now. So first of all, what's your response to the video?
Well, Carolyn, I was a little bit taken back. One, I didn't expect it. She had made statements on Twitter. I had asked her to withdraw them and to apologize. And I never thought that she would take it that other step further. You know, I have a view as a politician that there has to be a mutual respect between parliamentarians. Anytime that MP Kaka would have wanted to have a conversation with me around my heritage, around my ancestry, around my identity, I would have been happy to have that conversation. I've had that conversation with many people in my lifetime, and many conversations with people about my family history and my grandmother's time suffering through tuberculosis and having to be in a sanitarium. You know, the years that my mom spent at residential school, what it was like to grow up in an isolated coastal community, what's it like to practice a traditional way of life. You know, I have always shared my culture, my history, my ancestry with anyone who's wanted to have that conversation with me. I also think that her questioning is out of naivety on her part, naivety, one, to what's acceptable, you know, in terms of questioning people's culture and their identity, but number two, not understanding the Inuit of Labrador.
So Kakak is calling for you to publicly explain your family tree. She says it is acceptable and common for Inuit to ask about a person's relatives and their history. So will you respond and explain your family tree publicly?
Absolutely not. I'm not prepared to have a DNA test for either. But what I will tell you is this: we have those conversations with each other. As I said, I'm happy to have a conversation with her, but I don't think I have to prove my identity to her or anyone else in social media or in the public airways. I know who I am. I know who my grandmother and my great-grandmother was. I know what descent they were. I can trace my Inuit history in Labrador back to the early 1800s. And that's available for anyone who wants to see it. It's probably even on the public record through Nunavut. I have no idea. What is happening here is not a conversation. This is a domination in culture. It's a condemnation and racial slurs. It is what we call lateral violence in racial circles. And that's what's being practiced here. And her level of dominance is not acceptable in cases like this.
Now, she also says she will not apologize for her tweet. How do you respond to that?
I really believe that the conversation that's occurring is not helpful for Inuit in Canada. And my only goal, you know, as a person who is of Inuk descent, has been in advancing the rights of Inuit people in this country. And I would say to my colleague, I would say her time and her energy could be better spent in trying to serve her constituents and advance the cause of Inuit in Canada and not practicing lateral racism against her own culture.
Yvonne Jones, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Well, Here and Now did try to contact the MP from Nunavut, Mumalak Kakak, for an interview. Unfortunately, we did not hear back from her.
A lot of times we use break records that actually have sound effects or drum loops for the sole purpose of scratching.
Scratching with MC Snacks. It's another episode of For the Love of Music, a little later on the show.
They came to this city to study, never imagining St. John's would be their safe harbor during a global pandemic.
You're about to meet two international students who are riding out the pandemic at Memorial's Signal Hill campus. Now, it's been difficult for them as they worry about their families back home, but they're also feeling grateful to the province that allowed them to stay.
I'm just like really thankful that I got to experience the pandemic here.
I think it was a good decision to stay here. If I back to the same situation, I definitely will the same decision.
My name is Mariana Esquivel. I am studying a master's in folklore here at Memorial University, and I am from Mexico City. So I live in the Signal Hill campus, and I'm a residence coordinator here at the Battery. And well, the year started with Snowmageddon, and then we thought we were over that, and the pandemic hits, right? It was really stressful. At times, I didn't know what to do, as I think most of us international students didn't really know what to do. Like, what's the best choice? Do you go back home? Do you stay here? You know, it's hard. And I was not only dealing with my own personal stress about that, it was also concerned residents who were asking me, are we getting kicked out? Like, what is going to happen to us? Luckily, the residency didn't shut down. We're still here.
I remember for 32 days, yes, 32 days, I didn't go out from the Signal Hill campus. My name is Saman Bazmi. I am from Iran. I am doing my PhD here. First thing that we had is closing the kitchen. Consider you bring everything from your office to Signal Hill campus and you see the email that says your kitchen is going to be closed in 2 days. I remember in that 2 days, I cooked everything that I had food for 1 month. What we have? Okay, that's awesome. So here is my office, my little office that I am working from home. Any kind of immigration, either academic, either for work, you are far from our family and you are far from the home that you are growing up. I am the first kid in my home and it was really hard for me and especially for my parents that far from each other.
It's been really hard. I was used to going to Mexico every time a semester ended for at least like a couple of weeks. And now it's been more than a year since I last went there. We were trying to make the best out of it, and I was just so grateful that the residents did not shut down, especially because many of us come from countries where the pandemic hasn't been handled great. When I compare it to the experience of my parents or like even the families of other friends who come from other countries, right? The pandemic here, like we've been so lucky. I don't know if we fully realize how lucky this island has been when compared to the rest of the world.
After sticking to the room for 32 days, I have decided to see the nature of the Newfoundland. Since I have a car to go someplace such as Bona Vista, Grassmore National Park, I will have more than 200 kilometers hiking last summer, and I would like to move my record. I think Memorial University is one of the best place in Canada. I am very thankful from the Memorial University of Newfoundland and especially the Signal Hill campus because they are keeping us safe and it is so important to us.
It was terrifying, I'm not going to lie. Even with the pandemic, I would say this was a great experience for me and I am so grateful to everyone I met here, to the university and just like to the province in general.
Well, very positive people. Happy to be here. It's great to see.
Yeah, and thanks so much to hear now Zach Gowdy for putting that together for us.
Well, now we have the latest in our ongoing series, For the Love of Music.
Yes, tonight we're featuring a local DJ and how he fell in love with turntables and scratching.
My name is Brian, aka MC Snacks. I'm a musician from here in Newfoundland, and I also do a bit of turntablism, as they call it. Turntablism, we use that word, and all it means is to use turntables in a mixer as a musical instrument. So instead of just playing music as a DJ, you're actually using the equipment to make your own new music. When I was like a teenager, DJs and everything were in commercials and stuff like that, and I was always fascinated with it, but in particularly, I was obsessed with like the scratching. The legendary story of how like scratching was discovered was, a New York DJ, Grand Wizard Theodore, was actually practicing in his room, and his mom called out to him, so he stopped the record. He was practicing DJing, and this is before scratching was really a thing. And he noticed when he stopped the record, he stopped it during a sound, and it made a scratch noise. He said, "Oh, that sounded really cool." So he ended up incorporating that into his DJ sets, and then turntablism was born. The vinyl that we use, there's nothing special about how the record is made. It's just like the records you might have at home. But a lot of times we use break records that actually have sound effects or drum loops for the sole purpose of scratching. So the crossfader is, the fader usually at the bottom of the mixer that goes left to right, and that actually fades in between the left and the right turntable. Eventually, people said, "Oh, well, a guitar player or a saxophone player will use multiple fingers." So DJs started using multiple fingers on the crossfader, doing a technique we call the crab scratch. It just keeps evolving and evolving. Turntablism, it seems like it has waves, it ebbs and flows as far as how popular it is in culture. Like these days it isn't as popular as it used to be, but there are, diehards like me who are just obsessed with scratching, and just would never let it go. We'll practice, until our fingers are numb.
Certainly learned a lot there, but I think I'll stick to the weather. Thanks to video producer Mike Sims for putting that together. Now, we all want to know, we're heading to the weekend. What is that going to look like? We got a little bit of sunshine today, and as we head through the day tomorrow, we are going to see a few showers in the mix across the board. But as we head into Saturday, that area of low pressure responsible for that is sticking around. So it's still going to be a little bit unsettled on Saturday. We're going to see the potential for a few flurries again in the mix on the west coast, and then a few showers possible as well for eastern areas of the island. We'll see a similar setup across Labrador as well, with a potential for some flurries, and behind that with some colder air moving in for Saturday evening. And then we see some clearing skies, and that's going to set the stage for a beautiful Sunday. Lots of sunshine for most of the island. However, we're going to stay with some of that cooler air across Labrador through the day on Sunday, and that means we're going to see the risk of some flurries as we head through the day, though that potential for showers will stick around as well. Eventually, through the evening hours, we will see some cloud cover move back in, and then that will continue through parts of Monday as well. So temperatures on Sunday, or Saturday rather, will be pretty much where we're going to sit tomorrow. So somewhere between 7 and 8 degrees through the day. A little cooler down along the southern southwestern portion of the island as we see that onshore flow, about 4 degrees for Port aux Basques. And again, that potential for some flurries in the mix. Across Labrador, you're looking at some showers for Lab City at 5 degrees. Same thing for Happy Valley Goose Bay. Showers or flurries through the afternoon. And then a similar forecast towards the coastal areas of the Big Land. Cartwright should sit around 4 degrees as the afternoon high on Saturday. Sunday, there it is. All that sunshine, temperatures back up into the double digits. A little cooler again, thanks to onshore flow for the southwest. 8 degrees for Port aux Basques, and then we're looking at about 5 degrees for Lab City. Again, Nain staying around 2 degrees. And then we've got that sunshine and temperatures into the single digits on the plus side of the mercury for southeastern portions of Labrador. After that, St. John's and Eastern Newfoundland should stay into those double digits through Monday, looking at 11 degrees, keeping that sunshine in there. However, clouds will be on the increase. We'll probably see some showers into the evening hours, and then Tuesday will stay gray with the potential for showers sticking around. We'll see a similar forecast for central Newfoundland. However, you will see your showers a little bit earlier, but temperatures will be also a little bit warmer, between 11 to 15 degrees as we head into next week. For western Newfoundland, same thing, with the showers arriving later on in the day and then Tuesday staying gray. But again, double-digit temperatures sticking around. And then for eastern Labrador, you'll hit that on Monday, it looks like. And then for the western portion of the Big Land, you're looking at the flurries sticking around for Monday. Wanted to share this photo of the Sugarloaf Path of the East Coast Trail today. Great shot there. Thank you so much for sharing that. And if you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Gorgeous. Looks like Sunday is going to be a great gardening day.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Thinking about you for that, yeah.
Well, that's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.